Hi knitters, today's the day when we're casting on and doing our rib stitches for the January headband. I hope you found your yarn. I hope you found gauge so you have your appropriate 16-inch size needles. Remember, if you want the pattern, it is on my Ravelry page, Gail Colmar Designs, under January headband. You can go ahead and download that. And if you just want to work along with us, I just ask that you keep watching the video numerous times from start to finish, and that just really helps me out. I so appreciate each person doing that. Let's get knitting. Let's just take a quick moment and review where we've been. In the first video, we went over materials. In the second video, we worked through our gauge. I hope you took the time to find gauge for your yarn. Remember, the yarn that I started this project with, my sample, I needed a size 4 needle. The same knitter, me, doing the same project in the same week, had to go down to a size 3 for different yarn. So I encourage you to find gauge for you today with the yarn that you've chosen. I found my size 3 needles that are short, so they're 16 inches or less from tip to tip, and that's what we're going to be working on today. We also looked at sizes, and I hope you have chosen a size. I am going to be working the size 4 today, and that's all in bold on the pattern. I highly recommend that once you choose your size, you go ahead and circle all the numbers on your pattern for that particular size. That's just going to make it really easy. Your eye is going to easily go find those sizes and not mistake it for a different number, different size. We're also going to be looking at some abbreviations that are very standard. We have a Longtail cast on that we are doing today. We have stitches, knit, purl, slip marker, and I hope you've got your marker chosen for this project, and bind off. So a very straightforward, very simple project for all beginners and experienced knitters alike. Let's get started with the Longtail cast on. As you can see in the directions for size 4, I will be casting on 144 stitches. In order to do that, the directions do indicate you're going to need about 2.5 yards on the tail. So you want to measure off from your cut edge 2.5 yards. And I'm going to say that is about here for me. And this spot is going to be where I do my first twisty stitch. I'm going to pull a little extra out so I don't get too much tension. Make sure the long tail is over your thumb and the working yarn that's going to your ball is over your first finger. I'm going to come in from the back and do a quick twisty stitch, and this is going to be my very first stitch. Again, I have a diamond in my hand, and I'm going to drop my needle down, and now I have what I call rabbit ears. I'm going to come up in my thumb loop and pull the yarn that's over my first finger through that thumb loop, and then kind of swish it apart and tighten it up. I'm leaving space between the stitches. If you want more information on how to make a Longtail cast on, you can go see my quick start video, and that'll go through in a little bit more detail. I am just leaving an equal amount of space between the stitches, and that is really important. You can see when I pull the stitches apart, I have equal amount of needle showing between the stitches. This is going to keep me from casting on too tightly. We want to make sure that we are very loose in our cast on, not sloppy and not loops of yarn hanging out. I do want them nice and tight, but I want them equally spaced so that it isn't bound up too tight, that the knitted cast on row can breathe and stretch and do what it needs to do. So I am just casting on like this, going around, and I'm just casting on one tip of the needle. I like to cast on 50 stitches and then place a marker. You can even just take a little knotted loop of yarn and use that as a marker. So when I get to 50, I will place my marker. Every once in a while, check it to make sure it's stretching and that you have about the equal amount of distance between stitches. 49, 50. And I am just going to go ahead and place this little loop of yarn over that spot so I know, just for accounting purposes, that that is my 50 stitches. And I'm going to put on 50 more. You can see right here how my yarn is somewhat untwisting. It's just kind of reverting back to a series of plies right there. So every now and again, I'm going to want to let that twisty end kind of respin itself, and that might help keep the integrity of my yarn. 49, 50. There's my second set of 50. So I'm going to just place another marker that I happen to have lying around. And I'm going to go ahead and do 44 more for the size 4. That's convenient, huh? 144 for size 4. 42, 43, 44. So that should be my full number. And I just want you to see what I have left for my long tail. So give yourself a little extra if you are inclined. Okay, at this point I have my 144 stitches on my needles. It never hurts to count again. I find sometimes, I don't know where my head goes, I get distracted or forget how to count. I don't know what happens. So let's count each section again and make sure that we have 50 in each section and then 44 in the last section. As you're counting, make sure you don't push them off too far. If you want to put on a little tip protector, that will keep your stitches from falling off. 2, 4, 6. So let me count the last section. 44 right there. We are good to go. So I am just going to take my yarn and do a little half hitch knot right there just to keep everything from slipping. I'm not going to make it really tight. I just want to keep my first stitch from getting really big. All right, so this is the most exciting stitch of the whole project. Some might consider this the trickiest stitch in the whole project, but once you do this next stitch, the rest is easy. You can see how this braided cast on edge wants to serpentine around the circular needle. And it's okay if it's doing this little switchback thing, but it's not okay if it goes actually around the needle. There, it's twisting the whole way around. You see it's here, and then it comes around, and it comes back up here, and then keeps going. That is unacceptable. We have to make it stay on top of the needle. Okay, that's really important. This you want to check a couple of times because it has a quirky habit of going back right after you fix it. It wants to kind of twist back up on itself. So I've taken my point protectors off and I'm going to actually leave just a 6 or 8 inch tail. And now let's do this critical step of organizing the braided cast on. I need my working yarn to be coming from my right hand needle, and you can see this braid right through here. This is the cast on edge, of course, and that has to be running all around the needle just to the inside of the needle. I do not want it twisting around the needle. It can't serpentine around. It can do switchbacks or ruffles like here, that's okay. It can do little switchbacks, but right here where it goes around the needle, that we cannot have. So let me show you that. You can see that braid goes literally the whole way around and starts going and continues on, but we can't have that. So we need to start at one end and we need to make sure that we untwist that cast on edge. Without those stitches falling off. Okay, you want to double check that and just make sure that you are not going around the needle. That it's actually just all ruffled up on one side. That's fair. That's no problem. Like right there, we're still We're still going around. So now I need to, there we go. It actually worked out pretty nicely. Okay, so once I have that double checked, wouldn't hurt to even triple check, I'm going to place my beginning of round marker. I'm going to make sure that my yarn is to the front of the work. And we are going to purl one stitch and pull that really nice and tight. That first stitch you want nice and tight. I'm going to come in here and purl a second stitch. And now I'm going to knit 2 stitches. 1, 2. All right, that was the hardest part of the whole project. The rest, super easy. So I'm just going to take a moment and check one last time to make sure that nothing is twisted, that this braided edge is all to the inside, and it's nice and easy if you lay it down. Okay, as long as that braided edge completes a circle that is not an infinity loop, but it just runs right along the inside of the circular needles, you are good to go. That's the hardest part, in my humble opinion. That's the worst of it. So once you have those first 4 stitches in, we've actually already started the rib. We are working the 2x2 rib stitch pattern below for however many inches for your size. I'm going to be working for 1 inch. So you can see the 2x2 rib stitch pattern right here. And that says I'm going to purl 2, knit 2, and I'm going to repeat that all the way around, and then I'm going to slip the marker. So let me show you that. So I've purled 2, knitted 2. Let's go ahead and purl 2, knit 2. I am going to be doing this little purl 2, knit 2 repeat all the way around, and when I get to these counting markers, I'm going to take them out because I don't need them anymore. My counting is over. I also want to note that we are definitely working on the braided side. Do you see that little twisty side? Again, this is the right side of the work. You want to make sure that you join and are working on the right side of the braid. If you have any questions on what is the right side or the wrong side of a long tail cast on, please go back to my quick start video and take a look at that. I think I explained that relatively thoroughly, so you know which is the front and which is the back of the long tail cast on. So if I get distracted like I just did and I'm not sure where I left off, I see, oh, I have 2 purls right here. So I know that 2 knits are next. It's a very easy little stitch pattern. This is called a 2x2 rib. Every once in a while, you may want to go back and look at your work and make sure that you have a knit 2, purl 2, and that you didn't accidentally just knit 1 and then I was going to purl 1. So mistakes can happen when we're thinking about more than one thing at a time. So go ahead and just do a visual check on your pattern and make sure you're still on point. I've come to my first stitch counting marker, so I'm just going to remove it because I don't need to count any more stitches. I have purl 2, so I'm going to knit 2. This stitch pattern, purl 2, knit 2, is a 4-stitch repeat. I need 4 stitches in order to complete the pattern one time. And 50 is not divisible by 4, so I am going to end with the purl 2 right at the first 50 stitch marker. When I get to the second one, I'll have 100 stitches on there, and that is of course divisible by 4, so I should end at the end of the repeat. When I get to 100, I should be at the end of a knit 2. It's just a nice way to double check and make sure that everything is good. If I'm not at that point when I get to those markers, then I've either miscounted or I've missed a knit or a purl. I just keep pushing these around. If you've worked in the round before, you know what we're talking about. You just keep pushing them down like you do when you're knitting in rows. Try hard not to drop stitches off the cast on row. They're a little bit more challenging to pick up. It certainly can be done, but it isn't as straightforward, and you might see a little bit of that in the long run. Okay, as I said, I'm going to complete the whole stitch pattern when I get to my 100. So there's my 2 purls, and I'm going to complete my purl 2 knit 2 pattern, and I'm at the 100 stitch marker. So that is a really good confirmation that I'm on the right track. I'm going to take that, set it aside because I don't need that anymore, and I have 44 more stitches to go, which is again divisible by 4, so I have 11 more sets to get through. And I'm finishing up with the knit 2, and I'm at the end of my round. I'm just going to slip the marker over like that and keep going. I'm going to work exactly what I see. I'm going to do purl 2, knit 2 again. Again, tighten up on those first couple of stitches. Purl 2, knit 2. So I definitely need to repeat that stitch pattern in my mind, but I also, more importantly, need to be knitting the knits and purling the purls, making sure that I don't get off in the stitch pattern. If I count wrong on the second row and my pattern becomes skewed, that's not going to be the best. We want to keep that rib stitch nice and lined up. So knit 2, purl 2, that's nice to say, and I can use my left brain to say that, but I could just use my right brain to see it and do a monkey see, monkey do. That's a knit, knit it. That right there is a purl stitch right there, so I'm going to purl it. So I don't even really need to know where I am, I just need to do what I see. And that's one of the reasons why this pattern is so nice and easy. I just need to look at what I've done before and do that. The first round I need to set up correctly. I need to count that out and make sure that I'm on point. But after that, in this rib, I don't need to worry about it. I just need to see it and do it. I am going to keep going around, and every time I get back to my beginning of round marker, I'm going to slip it onto the right needle again, and I'm going to completely go around and around and around for approximately 1 inch for the size 4. You go ahead and do whatever height you want for your size. Once you get to round 3 or so, you're going to find it's very easy to make sure that you're not twisted. In fact, you can see that all of this cast on is to the one side of the needle and not running around the needle. Sometimes it's easy at the beginning of the second round to still get it twisted. So just do one more check and make sure you're not twisted. I just want to show you that I made a mistake, and I want you to see what I'm going to do about it. So I have my 2 knits, 2 purls, 2 knits, a purl, and what is this? A knit. So I'm just taking that back out, tinking it back, and go ahead and keep going. I found that right away, so it was of course really easy to fix. Let's say you need to put your knitting down and you get distracted and you walk away. You come back and maybe it got tangled up in your bag and this mess comes out. How do you know where you are? That is always the question, because you see how this can turn right side out and inside out so easily. You always want to make sure that your working yarn is coming from your right hand needle. So if you're looking at this side, do you see how it's from the left hand needle right now? And if I start working in this direction, I'm actually working in the wrong direction. that would actually leave a hole. If I were to do this, I'm going to put in 4 stitches. And you could see how it's leaving this gap, this hole. That is because I went one direction and then I started going back on myself the other direction. And that is not what we want to do when we're working in the round. We never want to turn and go in the opposite direction. So you can see I'm at the end of a row right there because these 2 stitches are not connected. So I'm going to pull that out and make sure that I'm always coming from the right needle with my working yarn. And then I know I can start going in that direction. Another good check is, again, to make sure that you've got that pretty little braided edge of the Longtail cast on facing you as the right side. If I turn it over, you can see those little pearls are right at the bottom, and that is a good indicator that it's the wrong side of the work. So I want to make sure that the right side is facing me when I'm working. So here's another place people could go a little awry working in circular needles. They're going to turn it inside out. And so technically, this is the wrong side of the Longtail cast on with those little pearls. They are looking at the braided side, the front, and they're working off the back of their needles. They're working this direction. The working yarn is still coming from the right needle, but you're going to start wondering why sometimes you're thinking, well, why do I have all this in front? And why am I looking at the wrong side? Don't panic. Just turn it back right side out and then turn it so that you're working off the front of your needles. You haven't done anything fundamentally wrong. Your knitting is still all correct. It was just how you were holding it, turning it inside out and working off the back. But the front side of the back is the same as turning it right side out and working off the front side of the front. It's moving right along. Let's see how much I have done. You always want to measure from the cast on edge to just under your needle. You don't want to measure to the top of your needle, but just to the underside of your needle. So I'm going to put on my gauge here, and I am definitely over 1/2 inch. So over halfway done. I am nearly to the end, so let's see where we are. Get out my measure and see if this is 1 inch again from the bottom of the needles to the bottom. And I'm going with that. I'm going to say that is my 1 inch. So I'm finished. Well, not really. I have 2 stitches yet to go. So let me finish this round. Slip my marker. And now we're ready to start the next portion of the program. So I'm going to put my point protectors back on. And let's just take a look at where we've been and where we're going. Okay, in this video, we completed this much of the directions. So we completed the Longtail cast on. In my case, that was 144 stitches. We placed a marker, our beginning of round marker, and joined, being careful not to twist stitches. Very important. We spent a lot of time double and even triple checking that at a couple of different points. Then we worked our 2x2 rib stitch pattern for 1 inch. And this is what it looks like thus far. So really beautiful stitch definition. I'm loving my yarn. I hope you put in the comments if you are enjoying the yarn that you have been using and letting us know what yarn you picked. That would be great. Maybe that would give some insight to others and some inspiration to others. What was the 2x2 rib? Let me show you again what that was. The 2x2 rib is purl 2, knit 2. And we just did that the whole way around, making sure we slipped our marker as we worked. So that's it. Really simple so far. Easy peasy. I hope you're having a great time so far and you're loving your whole experience with the January headband. Please let me know in the comments how you're doing, and we are ready to get started in the next video in the stitch pattern section. So go ahead and click right here and let's keep knitting.